again, everyone, it's me, Madame Macabre, and welcome to another video. So for today, I have another story for you from my own personal creepy experiences. So the other day, I was having a conversation, and I don't know if you've ever experienced this yourself, where you're talking to somebody and somehow a topic just comes up that sparks an old memory that you had repressed or lost somewhere in your mind about something that happened in your childhood that was really spooky and creepy, and just this conversation sends it roaring to the forefront, because that is what happened to me. And I can't believe I forgot this was a thing, because it was pretty creepy, honestly, and it helped fuel my dislike and distrust of dolls. So let's rewind the clock back to when I was just a wee 10-year-old. My late great aunt, who was still alive back at that point in time, she and my great uncle owned this gorgeous, enormous old Victorian house that was, I want to say, 3 stories tall with an observatory tower. And it was just gorgeous. They had a very successful business, so they were able to afford all these crazy nice things. But I remember specifically loving to go visit them because their house was just enormous. And for a child, massive old Victorian manor is just so exciting to look through, especially because it had all the old, secret compartments and different things that you get with a lot of the old houses. So this house was actually settled on top of a valley looking down into the valley, and the valley itself is right in the Lahar pathway, and in the past the Lahar has gone through and leveled stuff. So there is some kind of history to that land of things like that happening. I have not personally done a ton of research into that to, maybe I will, now that I'm older and have time to look into it. But up to this point, I haven't actually done much research. All I know is that it overlooks a Lahar pathway. It's like right at the edge of the hill that goes into the valley. So there's this big, massive old Victorian house, and little child me loves nothing more than to go, running around seeing this giant house. I mean, it was like a Wonderland for a kid. She even had horses. It was crazy. But I remember just one time, I actually stayed the night there, and I'm not sure if this experience made me too scared to go back overnight or whatever. I don't actually remember why I didn't go back again. So maybe this incident played into me not wanting to, but I went for daytime visits, but I never wanted to be there at night ever again after this incident. So you can imagine it was a little bit spooky for a kid. So I'm not sure if any of y'all have seen The Sixth Sense. I mean, I'm sure you have. You must have if you're into spooky stuff. Good movie. If you haven't, please watch it. It's actually very good. But in The Sixth Sense, in that horrible scene at that, the bully kids party, up the stairs, at the top of the stairs, there's that creepy, evil little crawl space-like room thing. There was something very similar to that in my late great aunt's house. And it was on the second floor of this 3-story home. It was, I don't know if it was under the stairs or what, but there was this weird, we would call it the Alice in Wonderland room, my cousins and I, because that's what it made us think of. It had this tiny little child-sized door that you'd go in, and it was about half the ceiling height of a normal room. And my great aunt and great uncle had decked it out with toys and tea sets and stuff, thinking, oh, it's the perfect playroom for children. None of us kids wanted to go in there. It was always ice cold like a refrigerator, no matter what the temperature in the rest of the house was, and every single one of us got a bad vibe. We would get goosebumps. None of us got a good feeling in that room. So the most we would do is run in, grab the toys we wanted to play with, run out. Another weird thing, thinking back in hindsight, that did bother me as a kid, there was a lock on the door, but it wasn't on the inside to lock yourself in like you would in any other kind of bedroom situation. The lock was on the outside of this little door. So that was always weird to me, and it also made me never want to go in there, because I'm like, no, I'm not going to get locked in by one of my stupid cousins. You're not going to do that to me. But so that was the first like weird thing on top of it being cold and having bad vibes. There was also a lock on it, and this was the original door. A lot of the house had been restored, but a lot of the furniture and a lot of the furnishings and the doors and the hardware and all that stuff was original. So I just got bad vibes from that. Well, the one night that I stayed there, the whole day was wonderful. I got to go out and ride the horses, go run around, explore, do all the stuff kids love to do. And when it got to be bedtime, my great aunt had actually prepared a room for me to stay in. And this was also on the second floor. And this room, for most little girls, it would be an amazing wonderland to stay in, because this little bedroom she had set it for me, it had this adorable little day bed, and then all the shelves and walls and everything in that room was full of dolls. Fancy, like, if I didn't have this weird thing where I'm so creeped out by them, I could appreciate, because she had some fancy, beautiful, the expensive porcelain dolls that, like, little kids usually, like, drool over, but it made me feel creeped out because, once again, you know, from a young age, my sister got me scared of dolls, telling me that the porcelain dolls come to life at midnight and try and kill you. So I also had that floating around in my head, and just like the eyes in porcelain dolls, I don't trust them. I'm not scared of them anymore, but I still don't trust them. You know, I don't trust like that. Their eyes, they follow you, and I'm not okay with that kind of thing going on. But so this room just filled with these porcelain dolls, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm really scared, but I'm not gonna tell my great aunt because she went to a lot of trouble preparing this for me and trying to make sure I'm having a good visit. I'm gonna be thankful. I'm not gonna say anything. I'm just gonna, oh, thank you so much. This is a very pretty room. I love your dollies. And just, you know, throw my blanket over my head and try and just ignore it and sleep. So the other interesting thing about this room, other than it being full of these porcelain dolls, was that it had another second doorway at the other side of the room. And now this door actually led up and into the observatory tower. So you could, you know, go through there. You could lock it from the inside of the tower, so you could lock out whoever's in the room. You go up, and there's this beautiful observatory. They had it refurbished, so it had this really soft plush carpet, had a telescope and little bookshelves and stuff up there. It was really fun. But, so back to the story currently. So I am getting into the daybed, trying to sleep. I have all the blankets over me. Even though I'm overheating, I'm scared the dolls or demons or whatever are gonna get me. And finally, I start to, you know, calm down and get into that, like, twilight type of sleep where you're almost completely asleep. And that's when I heard it. The very distinct sound of a old brass doorknob jiggle, 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 jiggle. And mind you, my great aunt and great uncle slept on the main floor of the manor. I was on the second floor. And what else was on the second floor? The Alice in Wonderland room. Now, mind you, earlier in that day, I had made a clear point of making sure it was locked before I did anything else. And I had made sure it was still locked on my way to go to bed because I just didn't trust like that. And so it was just me alone on the second story and a jiggling doorknob. Now, if it would have been my aunt or uncle coming up to check on me, they would have called out for me, they would have turned a light on that I could see coming from under the door, anything like that. And there would have been other noises and things, but it was just dead quiet. It was pitch black, and the only sound I could hear was the jiggling of that heavy brass doorknob. And so obviously, you know, little me is starting to get a little more panicked, but I'm like, you know, I'm under my blankets, I'm safe. I'm under my blankets, I'm safe. And that's when I heard the click of a lock echo down the hallway. And, you know, that is when I switched from just to ignore it, you know, you're safe under the blankets, to something is very, very wrong, and I am not okay with this. So, you know, I started thinking, what do I do? what do I do? Do I call out for my great aunt, great uncle? Will I make it up here in time? What do I do? And as I'm sitting here having my little 10-year-old me inner monologue trying to figure out what is going on and how to survive it, I start to hear a door creak. Again, echoing from down that friggin' hallway, followed shortly by the sound of dragging footsteps. Like weird, I don't even know how to describe it. Like not normal heel toe. Like almost something moving with a weird limp or something. It was just dragging heavy footfalls. And that was too much for me. So in an absolute flurry, I grabbed my pillow, grabbed the blankets off the daybed, and doing the only thing I could think of, I booked it for the observatory tower. So I ran in there, slammed the door shut, locked it behind me, climbed all the stairs, and just like laid my pillow and blankets down on the really plush soft carpet up there, and like was trying not to cry. This was before cell phones were a common thing. I'll be honest with you, cell phones, we didn't have them as children when I was your guys' age. I didn't get my first cell phone until I was 16 years old. And that was like one of those basic little flip phones that all you can really do is make calls or like spend 5 minutes sending a text message because you have to press a button 4 times to get the letter you want. So, but I didn't have a phone. I was 10. Technology wasn't there. So I had no means of calling my mom, calling for help, doing anything. So all I could do was lay there in that observatory, terrified, hoping that the lock on that door couldn't be manipulated like the lock on the Alice in Wonderland room. So I just laid there for a while, unable to sleep, just listening, and to my horror, I could hear the dragging footsteps continue into the room I had previously been at. So of course at this point in time, I was absolutely horrified, but also a very curious child. So I got out from under my little blankie and slowly and quietly as possible sort of crept still on the floor, kind of like army crawling, towards the top of the stairs so I could look down at the doorway. And I could see the shadow of something standing there at the bottom outside that door, and I just held my breath and fought the urge to scream. And again, if it had been my great aunt, she would have turned all the lights on, not just the little cute glowy nightlight, fairy light things. She would be calling for me. She would be curious where I was, calling out, "Hey, where are you? What's going on? Are you up there?" But there was nothing, no noise at all. Just the dark shadow sitting at the right behind the door. So I sat there practically holding my breath for what felt like forever, but couldn't have been more, for like 30 seconds to a minute. And after that, the dragging step thing started again, and the shadow disappeared. And let me tell you, it took me a while to fall asleep that night, because I just kind of like huddled in the observatory tower at that point for probably a couple more hours until my tiny 10-year-old self just passed out from being too tired. Because I remember, I did fall asleep at some point, because I do remember waking up the next morning to my great aunt knocking on the observatory door, going, "Where are you? Where are you, honey? Are you up here? Did you lock this door?" And then me, groggily running down and unlocking it. "Oh, hi, Auntie. Sorry. I really wanted to go up and look at the stars. It's so pretty. I just fell asleep up there." "Oh, you silly goose. Okay, come down, have breakfast." I don't know why I didn't tell her about what I had experienced. Well, honestly, I don't know what her personal stance was on creepy things. But I don't know, just as a kid and in that moment, it didn't feel like the right thing to bring it up and tell her. I don't know. I just wanted to keep it to myself. So I did. And, the rest of the day was fine. We went back down the hallway, and the Alice in Wonderland door, it wasn't like, "And the door was open, bum, bum, bum." No, the weird thing is the door, it was shut and locked, just like I had left it before I had gone to bed. I mean, I suppose it's possible that it could have been my great aunt or great uncle moving around, but maybe sleepwalking, but I don't know how likely that is. It just, to this day, I can't quite figure out what it would have been that did all of that. I mean, fortunately, you know, there was that observatory tower, and for whatever reason, it had more issues with that lock than the one on the little door or whatever. So I'm fine, but I never actually stayed the night over there again. I was still fine with going with my family for daytime visits, but I refused all the way up until my great aunt passed and, you know, they sold the property and everything. I never went near that room again. In fact, I steered clear of the second floor. Just from then on out, I didn't do anything near that floor. If I wanted a certain toy, I'd ask one of my cousins to go up and get it for me. I was mentally checked out from that experience. I refused to go there. I didn't even tell my cousins about what I had experienced. It was just too much for me, and I think that's why I was able to forget it up until recently, because I just didn't tell anyone about it. It was so scary and traumatizing for me that I just kind of like shut it down, pushed it away, and just avoided going to that area, and only visited my great aunt with family things during the middle of the day. So I never really addressed that, and to this day, I'm still not entirely sure what it was and what it wanted. So, you know, and I don't care to find out, actually, so that's fine. But yeah, so I remembered that, and I figured you guys would enjoy hearing that kind of story, and it finally gives me the opportunity to share it with somebody else who can appreciate it. Oh, man. Don't you just love remembering terrifying old things? Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed today's story time. Maybe I'll remember other things from other conversations. Who knows what kind of traumas I suppressed from paranormal experiences as a child. I don't know, I attract this stuff. Even to this day, it was probably worse as a kid since kids seem to be beacons. Anyway, that's all I have time for today, so I will catch you all next time, and until then, stay creepy!